a number of different coalitions that will be functioning over time. Some will be able to do some things, others will be able to do other things. And how that will work and how that will play out, I think it's hard to say at the moment. But the one thing you can be sure is it'll take a lot of time. It'll take years, not days.
Do you think it's achievable in the light of the difficulties that you've outlined?
I do think it's achievable. I think that it is particularly something that strikes at free people. Every one of the people listening got up this morning and walked out of the door of their house, and they did not have to look to the left and look to the right. They didn't have to wear a flak jacket. They didn't have to get into an armored car. They didn't have to hide in their basement because we have enjoyed all of the privileges and opportunities of free people, and it's a wonderful thing. And we cannot allow terrorists to deny that of us. Therefore, we must. There is no choice other than to root out terrorists wherever they are across this globe.
Will you support changing the U.S. policy on assassinations?
I'm not a lawyer. There's no question but that there are networks and countries that need to change their ways, and we need to find a host of ways, political, economic, and military, to stop them.
Will the assistance you're seeking from your allies include the use of non-American troops in some of these operations?
This is not a problem that's unique to the United States. There's not a doubt in my mind, but that there will be other countries that will volunteer a variety of different types of assistance.
Have you asked Britain for that yet?
I don't think, I have certainly been in touch with the Minister of Defense of the UK, and as you well know, they are cooperating with us in various coalitions already in Iraq, and they fly beside us, and they are certainly a very close ally with capabilities that are important.
Will you use the military to secure airlines and airports?
The United States military is warfighters. The role of air marshals is a notably different thing, and people need to be trained for that and to be good at it, and our people have not been trained for it. And we have any number of demands on our people at the present time around the world, and I think it is. Second, the armed forces of the United States has their charter the defense of the United States from threats from the outside. The threats from the inside tend to be the task of the local law enforcement, the FBI, the sheriffs and people like that, unless there is some unusual event that requires the calling up of the National Guard as opposed to the active force. But because of the laws and the Constitution and posse comitatus, the practice has been for us, the armed forces of the United States, to address external threats.
Think about closing National Airport.
Last question.
Any decision that alters the way we live our lives is unfortunate. Clearly, for a period, we're going to have to be living and functioning with a heightened sense of awareness. Given the attack on the Pentagon, given the attack on the World Trade Center, and given the risks that exist, and the flight paths being right near the Pentagon, the White House, the Capitol building, it seems to me a necessity to close National Airport for a period. And I think it was the correct decision. We have airports at Dulles, we have airports at Baltimore, which give a great deal more time for a fighter interceptor to do something than a plane taking off from Washington National Airport, which flies right past the Pentagon day after day after day and right past the White House.
Did the FAA give you a timely warning about the plane approaching D.C., and why did our nation's air defenses fail to protect the Pentagon?
We don't have air defenses that are designed to protect the American people from a person inside the United States commandeering an American airline plane filled with American citizens. That is a customs, immigration, local law enforcement task. Anyone who has looked around the skies over the past several years knows that we do not keep aircraft in the air to anticipate some local situation like that. Now, what happens is when an aircraft goes off course, the FAA, as a matter of normal behavior, calls our combatant commander, our SINC, as we say, at NORAD, which is the North American Defense Zone, and says there's a plane that's off pattern. In this case, a plane took off from Dulles, apparently, and flew west and then came and circled Washington, D.C., and then plowed into the Pentagon. You have a matter of minutes, unless you have airplanes in the air or something like that you would use. We do, of course, today have some fighter aircraft in the air at various places in the United States. In addition, we have aircraft on strip alert, 10 to 15 minutes notice, at some 26 bases across the country. Our forces are on what's called DEFCON 4 at the present time, down from 3, a heightened sense of status of alert. And in terms of force protection around the world in the United States, we're on what's called Charlie. We were at Delta, which was the highest, and we've moved to Charlie. It is a very high state of alert. The reality is that a terrorist can attack at any time, in any place, using any technique, and it is physically impossible for a free people to try to defend in every place at every time against every technique. Now, what does that mean? It means that the president is exactly right, that we have to take this battle, this war, to the terrorists, where they are. And the best defense is an effective offense in this case, and that means they have to be rooted out. Thank you very much.
There you have it, Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld wrapping up his briefing this morning. Again, repeating a warning that we have heard from a number of cabinet secretaries that Americans should be ready for a prolonged campaign. In his words, one that will take years, not days. He talked a little bit about the kind of help the United States needed from friendly nations, including intelligence information. And in one of the more interesting comments he had, he talked about the fact that he believes a number of different coalitions will be built over time. Let's check in with John King right now to see what he thinks the significance of that means. What does that mean? He was asked a question about the Northern Alliance, which is the opposition force to the Taliban in Afghanistan. Is that what he was hinting at, that perhaps their 15,000 members in some way will join in some sort of effort to help get Osama bin Laden found and turned over to authorities? Is that what he meant?
Well, Paula, certainly from an intelligence and information standpoint, the Defense Secretary is serving clear notice there that if you live around the world and you think you have any relevant information about Osama bin Laden, his network, or anyone else who might be involved in this, the Pentagon, the United States government, most interested in speaking with you. That is why we have seen outreach not only to opposition groups in Afghanistan, but directly to the government of Pakistan. Very tough warning to the government of Saudi Arabia, we are told, to not only to crack down on the Taliban and to distance itself from the Taliban, but to turn over any information it has about financial support from Saudi Arabia into the bin Laden organization. And what you're seeing this morning, Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld out in public, the Vice President Dick Cheney granting interviews as well, this part of a coordinated administration effort to lay out the challenges ahead for the American people. One of the great concerns is, in recent years, Americans may have become accustomed to seeing cruise missiles launched into Afghanistan or the Sudan, those fighter jets still patrolling over Iraq 10 years later, dropping smart bombs. The administration trying to condition the American people that this will be different in going after terrorists. It will be a very different kind of campaign, some of it military, some of it diplomatic, some of it a financial effort to crack down on financial support. As we continue the discussion, I'd like to bring in our Kelly Wallace. She's been tracking the president this weekend in his discussions with senior advisors up at Camp David. Kelly, the administration clearly trying to prepare the American people, on the one hand saying, the Wall Street will open tomorrow, baseball will resume tomorrow. On the other hand, buckle down. This is a war that could take years.
Exactly, John, and you're hearing that from the president, and as you've noted, all his top advisors going out really on the Sunday talk shows. Again, preparing the American people for what we've heard the president, all top administration officials say will be a lengthy campaign, a political, economic, even a military campaign against terrorism. I thought it was quite interesting. We heard from Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld at the end of his meeting with reporters saying you can't really defend in the United States against every terrorist everywhere. So he says the best defense is really the best offense, and that's why he's saying we should go after the terrorists where they are. And also, John, pretty strong words for those countries, he said, who support them, who harbor them. He said those countries have capitals and have high-level military targets. It appeared definitely a strong threat there from the Defense Secretary about any countries encouraging or harboring terrorists. Now, another top official going out today, Vice President Dick Cheney, and he repeated what we've heard from the Bush administration as well, that the administration, in Mr. Cheney's words, is quite confident that Osama bin Laden is the prime suspect behind Tuesday's attacks in New York and Pennsylvania and in Virginia. Also, the vice president talking a bit about a development we've reported all day, the Pakistanis sending a delegation to Afghanistan basically to issue an ultimatum to the ruling Taliban militia, either turn over Osama bin Laden or face a massive military retaliation. Mr. Cheney saying he is quite encouraged that the Pakistanis have decided to stand with the U.S. and the international community.
The key here to keep in mind is that what we're asking nations to do, and which the Pacs have clearly made a decision to do, is we're asking nations to step up and be counted. They're going to have to decide. Are they going to stand with the United States and believe in freedom and democracy and civilization, or are they going to stand with the terrorists and the barbarians, if you will? And it's a fairly clear-cut choice, and I'm delighted to see that Pakistan has, in fact, stepped up to the task.
And President Bush remaining at the presidential retreat near Camp David. Expect, though, John, to see the president in the days ahead definitely continuing to use the bully pulpit to, again, prepare the American people, but also to let Americans get on with their lives, and as well, of course, John, to continue to remember those who lost loved ones and those who are still missing. John?
Kelly, stand by there at Camp David. I want to bring Bob Franken into the discussion. Bob is standing watch over at the Pentagon. Bob, when the Vice President, when the Defense Secretary say this could take years, what do they mean and why?
Well, what they mean is that it could take a very long time. Capturing bin Laden, taking out part of the Afghanistan government, for instance, is not going to really address the problem. The very nature of terrorism is what makes this so difficult. Terrorism can be accomplished by just a couple of people. Witness the Oklahoma City bombings. Those were domestic, of course, but they were domestic terrorists, 2 or 3 of them, no more than that. That, of course, is going to make it difficult. How do you get to a couple of people who just decide that they believe in something strongly enough that they're going to do something about it? Several years of what? How long do the American people, do they believe that the American people will tolerate massive inconvenience when it comes to flying around the United States? Massive inconvenience, for instance, when it means going to a sporting event or to a concert or something like that. These are very difficult problems, testing the American will. These are not conventional problems. The nature of terrorism is surprise, as we found out so tragically last Tuesday.
Okay, Bob, thank you there at the Pentagon. Thank you, Kelly Wallace, standing by at Camp David. We need to go back now to New York and Paula Zahn.
And thank you, John. And right now, we're going to quickly check in with Tom Mantir, who joins us again from Islamabad, Pakistan, with an update. Tom?
Paula, in the last hour, the Pakistan government has confirmed what we have been reporting basically for the last 6 or 7 hours, is that a delegation, a high-level Pakistani delegation, will go into Kandahar in Afghanistan tomorrow with a message. Now, in diplomatic circles, they don't like to use the word ultimatum, but they are going in with a message to the Taliban. They won't say what the message is, but it is believed to be, and sources tell us, it is basically an ultimatum to the Taliban to turn over bin Laden in 3 days or face massive military strikes. What has been going on at the president's residence today has been confidence building. He has been holding meetings, President Musharraf has been holding meetings all day long with media leaders, with politicians, with religious leaders. Now, each group is about 30 to 35 people. They have been coming in and out of the president's house all day. Basically, what he has been doing has been outlining what the position of the government is and how the level of cooperation with the United States is going to be, basically filling them in and bringing them into his confidence. We've also heard that the president sometime in the next 24, possibly 48 hours, may address the nation here in Pakistan to brief them about what is going on and what is going to be planned. But as we know it right now, part of the deal for Pakistan's cooperation is economic assistance. There are U.S. sanctions against Pakistan right now, and Pakistan also has a $30 billion debt. They may be asking for some debt forgiveness, so it's not a one-way street as far as the